And not all referrals are the same. So the likelihood of getting a referral is smaller, and getting a quality referral is smaller the further down this example line we go. So I'm going to start with what really works and is easiest to implement and will have the highest success rate. And then I'll progressively move until we talk about how to reach out to people completely cold, which still works, but just has a lower hit rate than the other techniques. At big companies, no one cares who referred you. Be mindful of that because a lot of you go kind of nuts. And I used to be in this bucket too. I used to go kind of nuts trying to find the perfect person to refer me into a big company. But at big companies like Google and Facebook are a great example. There are entire teams of recruiters that only deal with referrals. And so when you are referred in, you just get put by this separate team. Almost everybody there will get a call back unless you're completely unqualified or functionally didn't apply for the right role to get referred in. And you will just go through that pipeline. They don't look as much at who referred you as long as the person has the ability, again, in good standing, and has been in the organization long enough to be able to do that. So at big companies, it matters a little bit less. At small companies and non-tech companies, it matters a lot, like not a little bit, a lot. Who refers you could be the difference between getting a callback and not getting a callback. And so here, you really want to optimize for how you're introduced, whether you know the person or not. You really want to be in control of what is being said about you when you're put in the system. All right, let's take a deep breath and get ready to get very tactical with how we talk about referrals. Up until now, we've had an opportunity to talk about what you need to think about when you build trust and appear trustworthy to people that actually can refer you to these places. We've talked a little bit about what makes a good brand, what makes a good referral, and now we're going to talk about how to get these referrals. So first, I told you about your first degree network, and this is the most powerful tool that you have at your disposal that a lot of us really underestimate. The first thing that you could do right now, today, right after this office hour, is go to LinkedIn and export all of your connections. Now, LinkedIn will let any of you do that. You don't need to have premium. It's completely, totally free to do. And you'll get your connections, first and last name, their company position, and the date you connected on. Sometimes you'll be able to export the email address. Sometimes you won't. It depends on the person's settings that they put in LinkedIn. So in cases where you do not have the email address, you definitely want to have this filled in. Now, whether you're in the market or you're kind of passively looking, this is something you should do pretty regularly. In fact, I advise you to do it every 6 to 12 months and make lists of people that you haven't touched base with in a little bit. You want to grab a virtual coffee with so that you make your network a little bit more active. If someone is your LinkedIn friend, you should make sure that you actually know this person, have connected to this person, can ask a favor or can ask a question of this person at any time. And if the answer to that is no or maybe or I don't think so, then these people have no business being in your network. Your network is a very tactical thing for you. Once you have exported these, I would typically drop them in a sheet and then I will start sorting these. And there's a few different ways you might want to think about sorting. So first and kind of easiest is you could sort by what's column D here, essentially the company the person works on. So if you start with that, you'll be able to do an alphabetical sort, and then you could look at companies you're super interested in, single those people out, and then do a secondary sort just based on the position the person holds. Obviously, the more senior they are, the more influence they have, and you could definitely reach out to those people first. I usually pop another column in here to talk about the strength of the connection. And for myself, I just kind of rate people on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being, I kind of don't know this person that well. And 5 being, I'm really close to that person. I could ask for a favor. And you can make like a more simple scoring system for yourself. You can color code instead. But start by just doing that. And the people that you rank the highest on your system, well, these are the people you can immediately hit up for a referral. And in a moment, I'll show you an email or a LinkedIn message you can send them. And then the people who you score lower on, well, these are people that are less likely to be able to help you. And the other folks that you found here, it's not necessarily an issue that they don't work at companies where you want to be. They might know people who work at companies where you want to go. So these are still incredibly, incredibly useful connections to have. So don't discard them. We're going to filter them out and we're going to use them for our next exercise, which is dealing with your second degree connections. So the next thing that we'll do is once we've filtered this list, we already have a list of some people to reach out to that we know are strong. Now we're going to make a second list, and this is a list of companies that you like. Whether there's a crossover already with your first list or not, make a list of your top 10, maybe 15 companies where you really, and I mean like really badly want to work. And here, I urge you to be realistic about your abilities professionally and how ready you are for these companies. So for instance, a lot of times hiring at bigger companies is not just about technical seniority, it's also about scope. So if you've worked in like a very narrow role, chances are you won't be able to work at a role that has a massive, massive scope as your next jump. Or if you were an associate, chances are you can't jump to a role where you're going to be a director. So just be mindful and be realistic about where you think you're in your career. Make a list of 10 to 15 companies. And now we're going to play around with your second degree connections. First, let's step back and talk about who are these second degree connections and what is a second degree connection anyway? Well, the people who you know, they all know other people. And anybody they're connected to is your second degree connection. So ideally, when you, for instance, want to work for Amazon, when you go on LinkedIn and type Amazon in the search bar and then select the filter people, two things will pop up. First, you'll see the people who you have a first degree connection to, people you know already who work there. And then you'll see a second degree connection, so people who know people that you know. And those folks are great potential referral sources for you in the company. So anytime you see a second degree connection, we're going to go back to our original spreadsheet we've downloaded, pop another column and say this person knows, let's say Katie, who's an engineer at Amazon. And then at the end, when we've gone through our list of companies and compared them to our original list of people you know well that are your first degree network, we're going to ask for some introductions or potentially even reach out to some of these people cold by referencing who we know in common. The second type of second degree connection are people who you have worked with at the same company but maybe don't know well. So either, let's say you both worked at Chase for a period of time, but in different departments or in different geographies. You could still reach out to professional alumni networks and say, hey, we both worked at Chase. I see that you're now at Stripe. Would love to learn more about what you're doing. So these are kind of the second degree alumni lists. Another alumni list you should spend a lot of time on is folks that you went to school with. And it doesn't necessarily even need to be your class. If you click on your university and your own LinkedIn profile, just go ahead and click on the logo. And the page that will pop up will be your university page. And that'll give you a chance to search for alumni. There's a tab called Alumni there. And you could search for anybody by company. So any of your fellow alumni that, for instance, work at Netflix will pop up. And you could reach out and say, hey, I went to Cal Berkeley too, and I'm super interested in working at Netflix. Would you mind if we just have a virtual coffee? Would love to learn. And 9 times out of 10, people will be very open to having a quick chat with you. So again, just in summary, the 3 types of second degree circles we're going to spend our time on are 1, the people who know the people you know. So we're going to look up a company, and then anybody that shows up as a second degree connection, we're going to pop them into our spreadsheet and reach out to them either through our mutual connection or referencing our mutual connection. 2, companies where you have worked, you could reach out to anyone else who is either still working there or has worked there in the past for a referral. And 3, you could also use your alumni networks for your school and reach out to alumni who are at the same org where you want to end up on. So these are very, very powerful connections in your second degree network that folks often overlook. Next, and this is kind of going down the path of most to least likely. So this is kind of down the middle, and it also requires a lot more effort than the first two techniques we talked about. And this involves finding the hiring manager for a company where you want to work. And ideally, a hiring manager for a specific team would be helpful here. And then secondarily, finding their email and sending them a very personalized message about why you want to work there that would elicit either a call back or potentially an opportunity to interview. Now, be mindful here. This is a great way to reach out to people, but it does take a lot of your time between finding a person's email and writing something sufficiently compelling for someone to get back to you. It's not a small amount of effort. And you can find folks' email really easily. There's a lot of websites like Voila Norbert, Hunter.io, Clearbit, things like that. They'll help you find these emails for free. What is hard though is even if you have this email, making sure that you can succinctly say, like in 120 to 200 words or even less, what exactly you're asking for and why this specific person can help you, plus appear sufficiently compelling for your sales pitch. It could be tough. It could take a bit more time. It's still a really great method if you have a very strong and specific ask. But I would spend most of my time on the first two and only move on to this method if I feel confident I've exhausted all of my other options in getting through a company. Moving down the ladder, there's also an opportunity to get referred by people you don't know, so people who are strangers to you. And you could do that fairly easily, so you can join Facebook groups, Slack groups, Reddit groups, blind groups, and kind of other communities for your profession. If you need a list of who these groups are, how you can get into them, things like that, you could definitely visit our article page on Candor, and we have a lot of those listed out for you. But there's a ton of these communities that are incredibly, incredibly welcoming. And if you're able to contribute to the community, you can ask for a favor like a referral. Now, the peril here is just because someone says they will refer you doesn't mean they'll actually do it. And you have no way of ensuring that there's follow through. You also have no way of ensuring the person's in good standing. It's just not possible for you to know, or that they're qualified to do a referral. And so if you are taking this route for whatever reason, maybe you've exhausted all the other options, then just be mindful that this is less likely to be successful and less likely to be reliable. So here, I really recommend that you get 2 referrals per company to hedge your bets.